Hello, hello. Do we know what day it is? Today is Whitespace Day. Get you guys on my iPad so I can see ya. Very good. Good morning, everyone, or afternoon or evening, wherever you are currently joining me from. Whitespace Day. This one won't be super long. It's more of a discussion than a demo. Explanation. Maybe it's me defending myself. Yeah, 6 foot apart Whitespace Day. Right, Caroline? Seriously. Oh my goodness. Strange world we're living in. Hey, everybody. Trying to think, anything happened since I last talked to you guys? Oh, Groundhog Day, over and over and over. For sure. Diane and I did a live on Instagram. Was that yesterday or the day before? I can't even remember. Where we split the screen. That was fun. Hi, everyone. Glad to have you. You guys holding up okay? How are we feeling? It's only April 2nd. It feels like it should be April 2040, 09, 10th. Gosh. Good to have everybody with us. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about Whitespace. The Whitespace is the principle that a lot of people bristle against. And if you guys want to pop in the comments what frustrates you or about Whitespace, but I just want to qualify a few things. The first thing I want to say is I'm not trying to turn you into me. So I can only teach you what I do and why I do it. Yeah, on our live yesterday, me and Diane on Instagram, which will disappear in a couple hours because we started it at like noon my time, or almost 1 p.m. my time. Diane said she was gonna do her next video about Whitespace because everything I say today is not the art gospel of Diane. It just isn't. And it might not be your art gospel either, okay? And if it isn't, that's totally fine. I'm not saying this is the way to make art. This is a way. This is the way I like to make it. And I can, tell you why. And then you can decide to incorporate it or not, or, it's totally up to you. The bottom line is I like my art better when I have left some white space. Just bottom line, I like it better. And I always tell the story of when I first moved into this house. I was like, okay, I'm going to put my own art on the walls. And I pulled up Pinterest and found some abstract art that I thought was cool to use as an inspiration, and got these giant canvases and started creating, and I hated all of them. And I realized the reason I hated all of them was I was trying to impose what, somebody else's art, somebody else's aesthetic. Okay. And it just got to the point where I cannot, I have to be me. And so I scrapped it all. I scrapped all those canvases. I took them all back to ground zero and redid everything with Whitespace. Okay, so Cynthia asked the question that I'm going to define right now. Does Whitespace have to be white? No, it does not. So this is one page from a handout from a composition class I used to teach. I printed it out just to show that, just because the definitions here that I wrote years ago are good. So white space is also called negative space. And it really is a design term. And it just means the space where a subject is not. Okay? So white space does not have to be literally white. It's just the area around the focal point, or where the focal point is not, and where there's not a lot of other things jammed. Okay? It's called white space because that's what typesetters would call it when they were when they were setting documents. Okay, so it comes from printing and typesetting. So, but whitespace can be any color. Whitespace can have texture. It can have patterns. It's not just empty space. And this is why, for me, whitespace is important, because whitespace has shape. And shape matters, right? Anything that goes on our work that has shape is going to affect the final product. And so shape affects your composition no matter what. And what I've learned is that I like a little bit of respite. So let me go through these 4 principles of why whitespace. The first one is whitespace emphasizes your subject. So what is not there puts emphasis on what is there. So if you think about luxury brands, how do luxury brands advertise their handbag or their shoes? They don't clutter the ad with a million other things, right? Luxury and whitespace often go together. And I'm not saying my work is luxurious at all, but I'm just saying what is not there makes what is there very, very important. And I like that. I like that idea. By limiting the content, you increase the value of what is there. So think back to Sticker Sneeze of scrapbook days when there's just so much. Or think of a furniture ad, like when furniture stores are trying to sell their stuff and there's 10 different fonts and there's 89 pictures of different furniture and you don't even know where to look. I mean, that is really visually overwhelming, versus if there was one sofa in the furniture ad, that would really draw your eye, right? Hi, Curdy. So what's not there makes what is there more important. The second principle of whitespace is that it's going to balance and refine your composition. So I've learned if I have a whole bunch of puke on a page going on in one area, if I have an area that contrasts, that is balanced and empty compared to the puke, then I feel better. Yeah, it's respite. It's a place to look at all of this craziness and then go over here and think, "Whoa, now I have a break from that craziness," right? So that helps a lot. Another reason why white space is you can actually pull the eye around your work depending on what's not there. So what's funny, I pulled this up and these are all really old pieces of art that I did. You can see I've been using silhouettes forever. This is in an old global art journal too. So anyway, so this piece here, the composition goes this way, kind of in an S, and then the white space balances out, kind of like a yin and yang. And what's not there, so we read top to bottom, left to right. And so as I enter the piece and start to go this direction, because there's nothing there, where does my eye pull? It pulls down, right? So, and then it even curls you back around here, and in essence is making me really focus on the focal point, okay? And then whitespace does increase usability and gives you that respite. That's what this one's about. This was a piece I did on a large canvas, and it was, I mean, there's just so much going on. I ended up cutting that up into pieces. And I think I say this in the text. If the purple were yellow, so it provided more contrast, it would have been better. It just would have been more successful. I ended up cutting this canvas into pieces and using it in projects since it didn't work as a whole piece. So that's my why whitespace. Does that make sense? Emphasizes your subject, balances your composition, moves your eye in specific directions, increases readability, and adds respite. Okay? So let me show you a couple of my pieces of art. So this piece here, the white space is not literally white, but this area here would be considered the white space. And because I haven't put too much in my focal, it is serving to draw the eye here, right? Now, I do love my white space to be literally white. So I would say about 75% of the time, I do leave something white on the page. I mean, but not always. But, keep, a grain of salt with all this. This is the principle, and then what you choose to do with the principle is up to you. But this is very typical of me to have one unfinished corner. But technically, all of this is the white space. And that is drawing your eye here, right? It is drawing your eye here. Another one. This is a center weighted composition. This was probably a demo from a class that I did talking about lighting. And again, this all here is white space. Even the black bits are white space. And white space does help to give contrast. Okay, I can't believe I made this particular painting. In fact, this is in my painted papers box, and this is not something I'd put on my wall because that red background makes me twitchy. I think Diane would love it though. But again, all of this red would be considered white space, right? Same story, second verse, white. So I guess when I don't cover, I guess my way of showing you these pieces is when I don't leave it actually white, I have a very simple focal point. I know, Jill, can you believe I made that? What? Ooh, just dropped something. Why I had red on that background, I don't have any idea. It's very typical me in composition, but not in color, which is why I don't love it. It's just why I don't love it. Okay, so bottom line, did you guys hear that little nugget? The nugget is if Dina Wakely doesn't leave anything 100%, anything actually white, I keep a simplified or a single focal point. I don't overcomplicate the focal point, right? So then this is quite typical of me. This is some of the ones that I've been playing around lately. So I will start with a few strokes of color, and then the pieces the strokes that I add next, I serve to refine the composition. Remember back to collage, remember back to what to do next, that you don't fill in the white space, that you overlap your elements. So here the other elements that I added are overlapping and maintaining that white space. And that's just very typical me. I'm going to show you, I'm going to paint in my journal here in a minute and show you how I like to leave that. Again, another painting, notice the focal point is heavily weighted on this side with the color so that I have the balance or the respite on this side. Is this making sense, you guys? This is this is a page from an old journal. Tim Holtz paper doll, which I absolutely love those things. Oh my goodness, I hoard them like crazy. They're so fun. But not the dead space, the white space, it does help pull your eye towards him who he's the star of the show, right? He's the star. Another piece that's in progress, white space. I think I cut up a bigger one for that. And then you guys have seen these before, but why do they work? They work because, for me, for that balance, for that emptiness. Now, that's not to say that you have to do my style. You don't have to. If it's not your gig, again, you don't have to do it. I'm just kind of telling you why I do. Something in progress. Look, more red. I'm going to send that one to dye. This is another very typical of me coming out of the journal. I will sometimes draw in the white space and overlap the chunk so that my drawing maintains the white and the chunk's accent. I am so great at at articulating today, you guys. Oh my goodness. I had the worst night last night with a CPAP, and I had the weirdest dream. Listening to people's dreams is no fun, but I dreamt I was pregnant, and then I was like, well, how can I be pregnant? I don't have a uterus. And anyway, it was just it was horrible. I was trying to get into the doctor, and the doctor wouldn't see me, and the doctors were laughing at me. And anyway, the baby turned out to be a kitten. Weird. And then another one where this is very, very dense on this side. Lots of texture, lots of stenciling. And then over here, I've got this balance of respite, right? So that's it in practical, or that's it in finished pieces. So practical application is how do you leave it? And how you leave it is discipline. So whether I'm starting with spray, whether I'm starting with acrylic paint, I will do my best to leave space and to not cover something 100%. Because again, remember, yes, Danielle, I do dream in color. So before you, I just totally lost my train of thought. because of the dream in color. Oh, so I guess I would like you to, I'm going to break this down even further, okay? So if you're starting with a blank paper, before I have any idea what's coming next on this paper, I tend to do a couple of different things. And I'm going to take a pencil and I'm going to draw what I tend to do, okay? So whatever medium I'm starting with, whether gloss spray, paint, collage, whatever, I like to keep the color in certain areas of the page, okay? No, Danielle, it's not your fault. It's my fault for answering the question. Okay, so often I'll fill, and I'm going to come back and fill these in. I'll do that. I may do that. And I may do that. All of these are very typical starts for me. And notice what they have in common is that they will connect to edges, right? So does this drawing count as doodling? Yes, we're going to count it as doodling. And make sure Diane knows I did it. So my background layer almost always connects to an edge. So like, let's do spray for this one. Could you brayer a thin layer of white paint on that craft sheet and pick up that luscious color? Actually, if I keep building it up, I'll be able to pull it off like a skin. Right now it's dry, it's too thin to peel, but if I keep going and going, eventually I'll be able to pick it up, like kind of like when you pick up your skin off of a sunburn, I'll be able to pick that up and use it as a skin. It's another reason why I don't clean craft sheets. Another thing you can do is packing tape, and I'll show you. Don't let me forget to show you the packing tape after this. All right, so as you pick up your sprays, keep in mind, this is a material that will get everywhere. Okay, I'm just laughing because this is the Velcro. I took this journal off the CHA, or the Creativation stand, and brought it home. This was the Velcro keeping it on the wall. All right, so I want to focus the spray in, and I want to overlap the spray. So I'm going to start with yellow. And I'm going to add... My sprays are all over the place, you guys. I need to look on the floor. I'm going to add some cheddar. And a little bit of fuchsia. Oh, that one's almost gone, you guys. Do you hear it? It's barely there. Okay, so that may be one of my beginnings. And I will not fill in that white space at this point. I'm not saying later it won't get filled, but at this point it does not. All right, let me flip. Same dealie here. I'm going to because this one's almost gone, I'm going to pour some of it out. This one's almost gone too. Do you hear those ball bearings being really, really loud? It's because the spray is almost gone. Get my brush. Come back. And, you know, everything with me is loosey-goosey. If paint gets over here, oh well. But for the most part, I maintain that visual space. Okay, let's do this one. I'm having fun playing with sprays today. We've been doing a lot of acrylic paint. We haven't kicked the sprays up lately. Getting some mud. Where is my magenta? I don't know, so we'll use some paint. Oh, I don't want magenta on the green. And, you know, those of you that have been watching me know I have a pretty organic and free background process. And so nothing I do is controlled. So I might get that down. Next layer goes on. You must overlap with that next layer. If you don't, it will not look like it belongs. And just because you've left white space at the beginning doesn't mean you can't cover it up later. I mean, you can always cover it up. But I find I do better if I don't have to go back and put white space back in. It's not quite the same feel for me, though it is possible. So see how I'm covering it up a tad, but still in general preserving my composition. Let's go back to this one. And so I will do this just randomly on pages, and when I feel like it. So some days I'm just in slap paint on backgrounds mode, and that will happen for me. And then on another day, not usually, very rarely the same day that I am creating, will I come back and add the next step. Very rarely. I just don't. Little bit of paint, mini blending tool. And then if you're gonna stencil, your stenciling must overlap. The goal here is not to do the collage spread. The goal here always is an overlap, right? Yay. Yay. Do I have a denim? We're going to talk about the denim next week. Here, you do already know what to do with the denim, though, you guys. Just treat it like a piece of paper. It's just a piece of paper that you're already starting with some color. But yeah, we'll definitely work on that next week. Yesterday, Tim popped on to the live that Diane and I were doing on Instagram. And his weekly demos are Saturdays at 10 o'clock Pacific, which is the same time as mine. And I would really like to watch his demos. So my demo on Saturday will be postponed. I'll do it after he's done, because I would like to watch what he's doing. I learned a lot when I watched him. And so I would not... Anyway, so I'll still do Saturday, and I'll post a reminder, but I'm going to do it later in the day. Okay, so that what you just saw is a very, very, very typical start for me, but maintaining white space in that background layer. And then, maybe I'm going to come back and draw on this, or maybe I'm going to add stamping collage, and maybe it spreads out and ends up covered like, maybe it ends up looking like that, depending on how I begin. I don't know if you can see how I started, though, but this layer under here went like this, and this used to be what was originally very white. This was originally very white, and doesn't mean you can't grow into it, but this is just very typical of a beginning for me. All right, questions. Questions. I have my new product meeting with Ranger in a bit. I'd love to see how you finish these, Kay. I can draw on one of them. I would do exactly what we've done on other days, which is, find collage. This is just so big, it's covering up my pretty background. I'd find collage, find stamped images, collage collective. I think that goes there, don't you think? She's gonna go there. Some words, perfect. This one I will draw on. I've learned that I'm not some people really like their millions of layers. I've learned I'm like a 7-layer person. Is this the Distress Blender tool? It's the mini blending tool. You could use the Distress blending tool. Just much easier to stencil with paint. So some days I'm in a stamping mood. Some days I'm in a drawing mood. And so I will flip through journals and I'll have these backgrounds already done. And that's when I come back and complete them. How did you realize a technique is something you do normally? For example, how the composition styles are you go to? You know, I don't. The reason I've had conscious thought about it is because I teach it, and because I used to be a technical writer, I like to find ways to articulate and to teach what I do, and what I've learned a lot about. Yes, you can put tissue faces on. I can do that next. What I've learned a lot about students in class is that if students struggle in class, it's generally a result of bad explanations and bad teaching. And so I do try to break down what I do so that it's duplicatable, number one, and so that I can articulate it in a way that people can understand. And I always say if you take a class from me later in the year, that class is generally more refined, because I've seen where students struggle. Where's the new large brush? Wherever my materials are sold, Amber. So Runaway, Art and Craft. No big box carries my stuff, so you've got to go to your independents, which I'm a big supporter of. So that I might do that. And then here I can do tissue faces. So if I do the big one, it'll cover everything up. And I don't necessarily want all of it covered. And we'll do this one. On the live yesterday that Diane and I did, I showed her my scissors. They were making fun of me for my big scissors. I'm like, what's wrong with them? They're just a little painy. No big deal. So because I don't want this large face to take up the footprint of the entire page, what I'm doing is just slimming it down a tad. It's covering up my pretty background. That's all right. I'll still glue it down. Let's see. So if you're struggling to put these large tissue faces down, Raina, the key is the glue. And what I like to do is take the original gel medium and I butter the bread quite liberally. Nice thick layer of that. Really, this original gel of mine is very thin. We shouldn't have called it gel medium because people think it's thicker, but it's really soft. It's very, very soft gel. And then what I do is I layer this in, and then if you pull your brush going this direction, like from the inside to the out, you'll be able to get some wrinkles out. Will you be able to get all the wrinkles out? Probably not, but will you be able to get pretty close because the glue is soft enough? Yeah, probably. You'll be able to tell where you didn't glue very well because it won't stick. Sometimes if you find it's really wrinkly too, one of the things that I'll do is I'll get it down like this, okay? And then I'll be like, oh, that's still really wrinkly. While you've glued it, so you've glued it on the top and on the bottom, I'm gonna pull it up and do it again. And I find that second pass gets even more wrinkles out. But Julie Faye-Fan Balzer has a cute saying that she says, wrinkles in your collage are like wrinkles in your face. You just have to accept them. And I say that is true, but make sure you're using the right glue for your collage. So this thin paper needs a thin glue like my gel medium. And I find I can really get it pretty flat, even. Okay, so there she is. This the big brush, it comes in a 2-inch by itself, and then there's another set that has the flat that we accidentally discontinued. It was my fault. And then a smaller flat. So this is the big one that comes by itself. And is that the other one? I don't know, you guys. I can't find it. Oh, here we go. This is the other one. So you can get these two in a set or this one by themselves. And then this paper here that is cut out from the Collage Collective, I would use ultra thick for this and not thin gel. And I'm just going to glue it on. I don't worry about the Collage Collective paper being glued on the top, because this tissue you glue on the top so that it disappears, so that it becomes semi-transparent. This, I don't need it to disappear, so I don't bother gluing it on the top, because then you're dancing around a lot of wet glue, and then you also have to wait for it to dry. And yeah, that's a drag to me. So that's not something that I do. So that is very typical of how I would add focal points, and then I would add supporting elements. If you go back to that collage video and the critique videos, maybe some stenciling to overlap, repeating colors, visual interest, collage, right? Very, very typical. Words, 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 words. Always words. All right, I probably missed tons of questions. Clipper Street, cool, has brushes. Yep, you can use a hotel key card. Travis, I'm a glue and a paint sniffer too. The paint will show through to a point. For tissue, I use my original gel. Original gel. So maybe practice. Maybe just practice a little bit, leaving some space on one piece. You don't have to do it every time. Just try, and you might not like it. It might not be your jam, and that's totally fine. Like Diane Reedley knows it's not her jam. That's fine. Stores that carry my line in the Bay Area. Oh, there is a great one in Los Gatos called Creative Escape. She's got tons. Follow them on Facebook too. She's been posting videos every day, putting wall drops on what she has. They've been doing curbside. So Creative Escape in Los Gatos. Yeah, most people overthink, and I'm not an overthinker at all. I don't know. I just like it. I like to go quick, and the brushes could be stuck. You said you would show us the tape. Oh, thank you. All right. So you all know I have this really strong aversion to cleaning things, right? And I really hate cleaning craft sheets. I just detest it. And the only time I'll do it is if I'm at Diane's teaching or a store and they've lent me their craft sheet, or after a ranger class and I know all those craft sheets are going back, and those poor ranger gals have to clean them if you don't clean your own, which I don't think is fair. So I clean in mine then, but that's about it. Okay, so I'm just using plain clear packing tape. I'm gonna go ahead and put packing tape, sticky side down, of course. You think I would be able to thread this thing. Every time I thread it, my husband will thread it for me, and then I always manage to unthread it. So I'm gonna put packing tape down. What's cool about this is if your paint layers are too thin to pull up with your fingernail, this will pull them up like a cool skin. And then the other thing I want you to grab before you pull that up is dictionary paper, which I know I have. All right, hold on one second. So here's what I've learned about dictionaries, you guys. If you go to the used book sites and search for unabridged dictionary, you can get these for like a couple bucks, including shipping. Or people say, oh, I find them at library sales or rummage sales. Well, I'm very rarely in town to go to things like that. So, but anyway, these are super cheap because nobody wants their big dictionaries anymore. So I buy 4 or 5 of these at a time and then tear them up and use them in class. And if you don't do it, they'll just end up in the landfill. So recycle. All right, so have some dictionary paper nearby. So burnish it down real good. And look, cleanish craft sheet. I didn't put it there because that's still wet from where I put the spray. And then because there's some gaps there on the skin, it's still sticky in some parts, so that's why I put it on this. So I actually throw it in my drawer like this. I just throw it in my collage drawer. But if you burnish that and then pull that up as well, it'll stick to the areas that are still sticky, which I like. Looks like that part is not sticky anymore. Sometimes you have to put it down multiple. All right. That makes sense? So now I've got these, look how cool that is. Skin on top of dictionary. So then these end up in my work all the time. And if you don't want them to be glossy, you just have to put like a gel medium, a mattifier on top. And then, so this, like this by itself, just exactly like that. That could have gone on one of my pages instead of, like, if I want to move her off. The words are upside down, which I think is kind of funny. And I think it's actually tells an interesting story for the times we're living in, because I feel totally discombobulated. All right. So that alone can become a focal point, if that makes sense. I think she's too big now. La, 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 la. Okay, any last questions, my friends? This is one of my chipboard shapes that I sprayed over with something secret that you're not allowed to know about. Yeah, Queen's Ink. So all these stores, you guys, are doing curbside. They're doing mail order. Please follow them. Everything Scrapbook and Stamps, Papercraft Clubhouse, I think Scrap Shack, Crafty Scrappers. So many, you guys, are trying to stay alive. I hope that helped. I hope it helped a little bit about the theory and about why I do what I do, and it's, that's why I do it. Appreciate you guys. Talk to you all soon. Tomorrow. See you tomorrow, my friends.